So I guess my question to Rob, the analyst, is what's the distribution of the total sort of NFT sales look like? Is it, I get the feeling that it's not fairly widely distributed. So if you were to say there was a 1,000 ETH spent last year on NFTs, I would have thought that 90% of that would go to like 2 or 3 collections. And I think that's the basic problem with the marketplace as we're viewing it today.
Yeah, no, it is very centralized in a few collections, and even with different chains as well. I think it's 95% of NFT TVL is on Ethereum,
Right.
when it could be on so many other chains, but it still seems to be stuck on Ethereum mostly.
And the gas fees on Ethereum are going to present, I would have thought they would have prevented a lot of new mints and new issuance issues just because of the high gas fees, no?
Yeah, I think that's also what's going to drive Polygon NFTs, as you were saying, Toby, with the Ghazali collections, that sort of thing. I think is going to take off quite soon because it's so much cheaper and more accessible.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. So Ghazali every day is really funny. There was a tweet from someone, from some Bored Ape Yacht Club person. It basically was like, you don't need peoples every day when you've got Ghazalis every day, basically. He's of the people. And it just strikes me that's going to be a big trend at some point. Like, but it just takes a while. I've got some NFTs on Stacks. I got the Arties NFT and getting involved with the Crash Punks people. And in those early ecosystems, it's a long while for takeoff, right? You're just sort of sitting around and everyone kind of knows each other. And you're just sort of sitting around waiting and hoping and accumulating these things and hoping that one day it'll take off. But the thing of the gas fee, I think what's interesting about the dynamics, and this is what people have talked about, looks rare as well, is the dynamics of the high Ethereum gas fee mean that whales do sort of drive a lot of value in these things. There's so much incentive for them to remain on Ethereum because there's a feeding frenzy. They can buy in early because they've got good networks and understand it, and then the thing goes up. But it's not very democratic, right? Because if you've got more capital and better information flows, you do so much better than everyday person who's deploying half an Ethereum or 1 Ethereum, right?
Yeah, it's like getting on the Christie's mailing list, right? So there's only a few people on it, right? So I suppose, that enforced rarity, you're enforcing a high threshold with high gas fees, so that enforces the rarity of the works that can list there. And it also enforces the rarity of the available audience to those that have them, a huge amount of ETH to actually transact. So you're almost enforcing the floor price with the high gas fees. But I guess that's sort of the art, the collectible section of the NFT industry.
Yeah, right? And then everything else needs to move. All the stuff where you're actually needing to consistently interact with a contract the whole time.
Yeah, so
not be your main net Ethereum, right?
Like so like things like buying and selling influence, like the Sway token that you recommended. I mean, it's sort of bubbling along there, but all of that industry there, I just think that something that can automatically charge for plays and downloads without an intermediary aggregating that process, like Spotify, like iTunes, right? A decentralized version of those two, I think, is going to really propel the NFT construct or coding platform to the heights it needs, that it can get to. But it's can't do it on Ethereum, is my point, with the current gas fees. Like you can't buy I don't know, 200 tweets from a local influencer if the gas fees are more expensive than the 200 tweets. to buy those, right? You know what I mean? I mean, that's sort of the
it's obvious, and I think it is, and that's why I bought quite a few of the Ghazali things, because and got caught out on it, right? Because I think I bought one at 0.7, and now it's back down to like 0.23. But I then went, okay, now I'm just going to dollar cost average in and buy like 4 more at 0.23 or whatever, and then you've suddenly got, if it goes up, then even though you've got wiped out on the first one, I think it will be successful, because at the end of the day, there's only 1,000 of them, right? So and the guy's an internet sensation. So like what you see in the NFT market is so many, like the inexperience of the traders is almost scary, right? Like they ape into something, panic that they haven't been able to flip it right away, and then a relisting at 33% of the price, which makes no sense, right? Like why would you buy something to then book a loss 65% lower?
It's very juvenile. So I guess the question I'm asking, and still it's unanswered at this point, is what's the inflection point that we move from NFT as a collectible to NFT as a underpinning for content creators to get paid on wider distribution without an intermediary, I suppose. You know, we're waiting for that as what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I guess if you've got the collectible, that's still fueling a bit of the creator economy. Then obviously Axie, I've never spent a lot of time on Axie, but I should do at some point. Rob, I don't know if you've used Axie much or not.
I've Axie Infinity, as in I've never actually played the game, but I think I heard somewhere that the creators actually manually adjust the values of the tokens so that it's always at a certain level of accessibility. So it's very manipulated market, the currencies that they redeem to earn money playing, which is quite interesting.
Well, the bigger, I've heard of a couple of micro economies in that, right? So obviously it's big in the Philippines, 1,000 islands. Some people are living, in conditions that they lived for 500 years, but to us looks like poverty. To them, it's just normal, right? So, but they're seeking ways of, we can improve the house if we, do some gaming, et cetera, et cetera. But I've heard of like people buying action figures or avatars or game players, and then they rent them out to the Filipinos because these things have higher powers, et cetera, et cetera. It's almost like a Dungeons and Dragons. You buy the more powerful figure, and then you rent that powerful figure out to players in sort of 8-hour shifts, and then you split the winnings with them. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And what you also end up doing is having the people who have money basically like providing a resource. So it's almost like a leasing arrangement where you're sort of going, this thing can be profitable and you're accruing value in my thing, right? And
it goes back to the Roman era, right? You have your gladiators, and and the modern day version of that is the NFL and the Premiership, right? You come in as a big owner with bags of cash, and you get these avatars to play the game for you so that you win and you get the trophy, right? But they get the financial rewards. So
and then what's grown like wildfire as well is getting these kind of guilds that manage that, right? So they've got guilds where you can put money into, and then the guild sources the players and helps you manage the players, and then you just got a token or money in the system, and you're securing that. So it's what I've been doing is on Cyber. Have you come across that?
No.
So again, this is like just a fun website, but basically you can get all these different groups, and then people are housing the collectibles in the metaverse.
Oh, wow.
And then you can go around it and go and see the different things.
Looks like a really cool Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then you can go and look and
Oh, so you could put your own sort of NFTs on the wall.
yeah, you can put your own
Create
NFTs. So I've done my own collection as well.
It's kind of like
It's
a virtual
really-
gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's a
absolutely.
really good one, isn't it?
Yeah, this is really sexy.
Wow. So it's a really great tool to play around with.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Rob, in general, you know, what's the sort of the NFT? Has there been a price divergence between NFTs and the general crypto market, or is it just sort of all following the same pattern?
I think it grows as Ethereum grows, but I think there is a discrepancy between floor prices and Ethereum prices. It's not one to one, at least in the ones that I've looked at. They either adjust it to take advantage of Ethereum going up or to try and make it more accessible. But I mean, if I had to predict what would happen next, I would see some of that TVL from Ethereum seeping into other chains, because it's still so young, the scene. It's only existed for a year or so in the sort of size it exists in currently.
No, I was in which I think you're in as well, Kevin, the Satoshiables.
Yes,
And,
yeah, I've still got one.
I told someone in London who was running a VR startup, I was in Satoshiables, and he was like, wow, that's an OG NFT. And it's like been out since July. So it's just like
That's an OG NFT.
Yeah.
It's 9 months old. Oh, wow.
That's what I mean. Like there's still so much time for other scenes to take off with this sort of stuff.
Right. Gotcha. All right. So we're fairly early. It's a fairly juvenile market. It's fraught with some very emotional trading behavior. So just hang on and see what happens, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I think it's very, like, I think you can't get too caught up in feeding frenzies. So,
Yes.
like the worst thing, I did it with Ghazali just because I felt there was a possibility that it just would take off and stay up, right? You never really know, like because it's got such a small supply. At the end of the day, you only need a handful of whales coming in, and there'll be a supply. But you get what they call in crypto the paper hands, right? Who whatever reason, like there are so many people where it's easy to make money in NFTs. It's crazy. It's like people come into these things and they spend one Ethereum at the top, and within a week they're selling it at 0.25, and you feel a bit mean almost picking up stuff at that. But it's like
market.
Yeah, like there was one collection, this Fatale's collection.
Yes.
I was looking into on the women's side, and you could get them at zero, pretty much. Yeah, and now it's just spiked again. And yeah, I picked up a whole bunch of them at zero, just for the fun of it, just to see like you needed to pay zero plus the gas, and then you ended up with it. It's now 7x effectively from that moment. Although it's a tiny sum. So, but if it 10x's again, you've got a 70x on pretty much nothing, right? Like, so,
and like with everything in art, it has to have a provenance and a story. You know, the story is as valuable as the piece, right? You know, like, I mean, you just got to look at some of Tracy Emin's stuff, and it's fairly basic drawings and constructs, but it's her as an artist that you're buying into, not her capability as an artist. Right.
Yeah, and they're very much selling the artist who's doing all these sci-fi things and her style. And I think it just makes sense, right? Like at the end of the day, there's only essentially, it depends how big you think crypto is going to be as an industry, but all of these women avatars, right? Like if people at the moment can signal they're a woman in crypto by having that on Twitter, you could easily have just 1 million women in crypto, even the 20 collections we have at the moment. There's 10,000 of them. So you suddenly get, the math is that there'll be ever, like, it'll be like vintage wines, right? Like the World of Women with Gaia Siri will be the really prestige one. Then you'll buy the vintage. So I guess your Sad Girls Bar one, which already is owned by a lot of the influential people in crypto, is going to go also ballistic.
I tend to want to buy the ones I like, and I think that's the first point about art, is you buy the stuff you like first.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you don't care if you've got it forever.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. Well, I was joking because I've ended up in some rug pools, and in like, you just spread yourself around and play around, and you get alpha by just going in early, right? The thing is, I was thinking almost like you could, if you're exhibiting the stuff at some point, you can go like, you can have a rug room and then just try to get value from your rugged art, like, because it's still an NFT that you could buy, right?
Yeah. It's almost like you're selling them as postcards after you buy them. Yeah, I've had them for 2 years. They're worth no more than a postcard. If you want to buy them, give me a postcard price for them. Well, you can have it.
Yeah. And a lot of these things, you're putting onus on a lot of smart, scrappy startup people to do stuff with these things, right? A friend worked with the Australian Open, where they've done NFT tennis balls now, and they were giving them out as things and that were bought around this Australian Open.
Well, yeah. I'm one of 200 owners of the Zodia Markets NFT that was issued to those that was invited to their launch party. So I've got one of those, which there'll be no secondary market for whatsoever.
Yeah, and it was the but it's the plug-in usage of that. But
yeah. So Rob and Toby, the question I have, the metaverse, obviously is probably the talking point for 2022. What's your personal views or trend views on centralization versus decentralization of that sort of aspect of cryptocurrencies? Is that going to be the big owners of current media platforms are going to go in and buy all the metaverse developers and own that universe again, or is there room for the decentralization of it?
I feel like for it to sort of be the Web3 vision, it needs to kind of continue that decentralization thing, for me at least. Otherwise, what's the point? It needs to be sort of for the people. And that's what I think the play to earn things are doing as well. It's like people are no longer having a price set to them by a big company. They're deciding the value of things they want to buy themselves, which is quite cool.
And it's essentially an indie group, right? Like everyone was mocking Pepsi and Heineken and were sort of going GN friend and all the crypto tropes. And at the end of the day, right, like it came across as really cringeworthy to have Facebook, Meta, Pepsi, and Heineken all high-fiving each other. And like,
yeah.
They got mocked all over the internet.
It's like that guy, who's it, Steve Ballmer at Microsoft, and when he was dancing on stage at one of the Microsoft events, that's turned into a developers speech, right? Yeah. And he was just screaming. And it was that one. I just thought, God, it's like your dad trying to do a rap song at a wedding. Like, it's just pathetic.
But the people have done it quite well. Adidas did it quite well, where they partnered with both the Bored Apes and the Crypto Punks, and then had like an experience. So
they've been very quick off the mark with it.
And then Nike bought Wreck-It, right? Which is understandable. That's their sort of thing. Nike's a curious company in that, you don't really like their manufacturing practices, but they do have that balance between exclusivity and scale really correct, don't they? They sell scale product that everybody wants, but they also have this other sort of room where there's like limited edition Nikes that everybody absolutely covets, right? So They've got the post.
Yeah. All of the exclusive brands have picked up this trend. I saw, actually, I can't remember the Birkin bag. I think it was someone had faked, it was fake Birkin bags.
Right.
But like, I think where Nike and Adidas have, because they're so into street culture and like their business depends on understanding what's cool, what's not in sort of, and helping fuel that. That actually they're probably some of the better brands to go, hey, anything goes, we can get down with the kids, more or less, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have to stay relevant, right? They, you know, their face has to be on the 13-year-old in Indonesia. You know, they have to be in that metaverse if that's where they're going to spend most of their time, right? They have to be there. Okay, so there's still hope for the decentralization and disintermediation of content creation yet, right? Is what you're telling me.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've seen there's been a lot of celebrities buying into the whole metaverse thing. I know Snoop Dogg is a big believer. He like owns a huge portion of land in Decentraland, which is a big one. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole thing? Do you think it's better for it to be decentralized?
I heard a really good quote in one of the pieces in Blockworks today about somebody joining Friction Labs. And his quote was, you know, what takes me years to do in TradFi can take me a couple of months to do in DeFi, right? Just because of the decentralized nature of the work and how you can scale it and, you know, incentivize it, et cetera. I'd like to see that same principle, unifying theme applied into the metaverse. The only problem is that you've got content creators that are very selfish about their content. You know, that whole music thing, you've got Sony, you've got CBS Records, you've got Island, you've got all of these music producers that all they really do is they aggregate content and then they market the ones that they think are going to do the best. So they only put their money behind the ones that are selling well already, right? And I guess my point is that are people buying those because they're marketed well, or are they buying them because they truly enjoy the music? And if they're buying them because they're marketed well, then you'll never get a decentralized format that adheres to that, right? You'll always get somebody that wants to own the marketing pipe and does it better than, you know, 30,000 different people do it, because it just becomes sort of a wash of beige. There's no central marketing message to that. So I guess I'm conflicted in that are we just going to have a bunch of world of country and Western singers trying to market their music, and if they sell 1,000 hits, you know, 1,000 downloads, then they're fine with that? Or are we going to get people in aggregating this on a technology basis and becoming the centralized music producer, albeit a computer or an algorithm, rather than a curator of content, right? So yeah, I'm a bit, I don't know. I like to think that, you know, iTunes moved from launch to 30 days later becoming the world's largest music producer without paying content creators any more money, but selling a lot more than everybody else combined. Right? But they didn't add any value to the content creation process or journey. And I was hoping that the metaverse decentralized project would be able to do that. It would allow a kid to come up with a song in his bedroom and market it fairly cheaply and launch it and get paid on it. You know, get 50 to 60% of the revenues instead of 10.
Yeah, no. And that is very much the goal. I haven't yet seen that come at scale, but the moment it happens, we'll know, right? Like there's a number of groups trying to do stuff like that. And it's all about the game mechanics. You can't get inbuilt virality, right? I was thinking a lot about the early days of MySpace when you were talking about that, right? Which actually got ruined by being bought by Rupert Murdoch and News Corp. What's cool about crypto is you can the numbers that you need to get to a viable business model are much smaller than the numbers you need to get to for a viable business for a rock musician, right? Like if you're Queen, to be Queen, you need to you needed in the old model to be internationally famous. Here you can be a cult hit with limited supply. So it does solve a lot of the problem for indie people.
Yeah, Ghazali every day, an example, he's a millionaire within, well, he's been doing this, he's 993 of them, so he's got 993 days, which is at least 3 years.
3 years of preparing.
It's taken him 3 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But I'm fair play to him, right?
Yeah. I guess there's a lot to play for now, and I'd like to see a lot more collaboration between the NFT creators, the metaverse creators, and the musicians and things like that.
And I think the collaboration's coming. Everyone's kind of figuring out how they partner, who they partner with. Like they've got a movement. Like what was quite cool, some of the Bored Apes set up a band that looked like it will be a bit like Gorillaz. So 4 of them are in the band with the ape avatar, and then they're going to be doing, I guess, digitized animations of their apes and the music and
and I guess supposedly that you could probably say, oh, there's going to be a rock concert within the Axie Infinity game on Saturday at 8 o'clock, and there'll be somebody's music playing with some avatars and things like that, and that's a way to brand and own and distribute in the space as well, right? So
which Fortnite apparently had, like, how many, Rob, did you remember when Fortnite did their big concert thing?
Yeah, it was over the first lockdown, I think, but they made so much money doing that. They did there was Ariana Grande, Travis Scott. Yeah, but it was pretty much exactly what we're describing, Kevin. It's just a big room where everyone's got their avatar and headsets, and it's just a virtual projection of them performing.
So it's getting there. The traction is there, is what you're saying to me.
Traction's definitely. I went to this incredible Oculus Rift thing.
Oh, how was that?
With Banksy. So it was a 20-minute tour of like all of Banksy's works through Miami, LA, France, like New York, wherever, right? Like Shanghai. And you wander around these cities, and then you have Banksy's kind of popping up, and you can look all around the city, and it's like a completely very immersive experience. And I think I failed, because this was in Barcelona, I failed to have time to actually go to his NFT show, because like there was just too much on and we just never made it. But I really wanted, like, apparently he had Banksy NFTs kind of thing as well. So it's fascinating. I mean, it's absolutely like for instance, Fortnite and the Banksy thing were not at all Web3 and payments options, but like it did strike me you could add a payment function very, very easily into that and go, you like the work of art, go click on it and keep it later, which is also I guess, like the bad thing about Web3 as well is it's very aggressively commercial, right? Like it's almost like a lot of the use cases of crypto are literally helping you buy more rubbish, right? Do you have any last questions, Kevin, or anything like that?
No, not at this stage. I'm just looking forward to the metaverse unfolding this year, and hopefully it's more decentralized than centralized. But right now, I guess the use case is game play to earn and branding and collectibles is what you're saying.
Yeah. Next week we'll do a bit of a Novum look at the metaverse. I might do it as a bit of a series and see where it goes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Amazing.